Disney's The Jungle Book. Deep in the jungle, Bagheera, the panther, was out hunting. Suddenly, he heard a strange crying sound coming from the river. He went to find out what it was and discovered a basket with a tiny baby boy inside. "Why, it's a man cub," he said. "This little chap needs food and a mother's care, perhaps. Mother Wolf will look after him." Mother Wolf agreed to help, and they named the man cub Mowgli. And he grew up safe and happy in the jungle. But everything changed when Mowgli was 10 years old. Shere Khan, the man-eating tiger, heard about the man cub and came searching for him. The wolves held an urgent meeting to discuss Mowgli's future. They agreed that Bagheera should take the boy back to the man village where he would be safe. The next morning, Bagheera and Mowgli set off on their journey. Mowgli was angry and upset, and he didn't understand why he had to leave the jungle. It was his home. When darkness fell, Bagheera and Mowgli climbed into a tree and settled down on a branch. Nearby, hiding under some leaves, was Kaa the python. As soon as Bagheera was asleep, Kaa slithered toward the man cub. Kaa's shining yellow eyes seemed to have magic power. Mowgli quickly fell under the spell and began to sink into a deep trance. Kaa started to slowly wind himself around the boy, ready to swallow him up. Suddenly, Bagheera woke up and sprang at Kaa. He gave the snake a terrible blow with his claws and sent him slithering away in the jungle. At dawn, Mowgli was awoken by a very loud noise. He looked down from a tree and saw an old elephant marching along. His trunk was held way high up in the air. "Up, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4, the elephant trumpeted behind him. There were other elephants trying to keep up. It was Colonel Hathi and the Dawn Patrol. Mowgli quickly leapt down the tree to join them. The man cub was soon down on all fours, following a baby elephant. He had great fun trying to copy everything the little elephant did. Eventually, Bagheera caught up with Mowgli and wanted to carry on towards the man village, but Mowgli refused to go. He grabbed a hold of the tree trunk and held tightly. Bagheera was very cross and ran off, leaving the man cub all alone, but not for long. As Mowgli wandered through the jungle, he met a friend, a bear named Baloo. "Well now, what do we have here?" asked Baloo. Mowgli introduced himself. He told Baloo how much he wanted to stay in the jungle. "No problem," Baloo said. "I'll look after you." Baloo enjoyed teaching his new friend about what he called the bare necessities of life. Soon Mowgli could fight like a bear, growl like a bear, and even scratch like a bear. Later that afternoon, Mowgli and Baloo waded into the river to keep cool. As they floated along, Mowgli sat on Baloo's tummy. It was very peaceful, and Baloo soon fell asleep. But watching some trees was a group of monkeys who were lying in wait to kidnap Mowgli. Suddenly, the monkeys sprang out from their hiding place and grabbed the man cub. "Hey, let go of me!" Mowgli shouted. Baloo woke with a jump, but it was too late. The monkeys were already carrying Mowgli off to the ruined temple where they lived. Luckily, Bagheera heard Mowgli's cries and rushed to the river to help. He found Baloo, who explained what had happened. We need a rescue plan," Bagheera said. At the ruined temple, Louie, King of the Apes, was sitting in his throne, waiting for the man cub to arrive. "So you're here at last," Louie cried, as Mowgli was dropped beside him. Louis offered to help Mowgli stay in the jungle. In return, he wanted to learn the secret of man's red fire. "Once I am the master of fire, I will be human, just like you," Louis said. Before Mowgli could explain that he didn't know the secret, Louis declared that they would have a great feast to honor their guest. The king leapt from his throne. He started to sing and dance as a monkey beat out the rhythm on a nearby tree trunk. As Mowgli's feet began to tap to the music, he forgot his troubles and joined in the fun. Meanwhile, Baloo and Bagheera had reached the temple. They watched Mowgli and the monkeys from behind the wall. "Baloo," whispered Bagheera, "you try to distract the monkeys while I rescue Mowgli." Baloo had an idea. He dressed in some coconut shells and leaves to look like a lady ape, and then he waved at Louis. The king thought the lady ape was very beautiful and rushed over to ask her to dance. He had no idea it was really Baloo in disguise. But as Baloo danced, his disguise began to fall off. The angry monkey realized he had been tricked and started to attack him. Just as Bagheera rushed over to help, Baloo knocked over a pillar, and the temple came crashing down on top of the monkeys. Luckily, Baloo and Bagheera managed to drag Mowgli to safety. The three friends ran deep into the jungle and found a place to rest. That night, Bagheera and Baloo watched over Mowgli as he slept. It was time to discuss their friend's future. "The man cub must go to the man village," said Bagheera. "It's not safe for him to stay in the jungle." Baloo, remembering Shere Khan, had to admit that Bagheera was right. So the next morning, Baloo led Mowgli off towards the man village. When the man cub found out where they were headed, he was very angry. "You don't want me to stay here. You're just like Bagheera," he shouted. Before Baloo could explain, Mowgli ran off into the jungle. When Bagheera heard Mowgli had run away, he went to see Colonel Hathi and the Dawn Patrol. "We need your help," Bagheera told him. "The man cub is alone in the jungle. We must find him before Shere Khan does." At that very moment, close by, Shere Khan was stalking a deer. As he stopped and listened to Bagheera, he licked his lips. "The man cub is lost in the jungle, eh? I think I'll do everyone a good deed and I'll find him first," he said, and off he went to begin his search. It wasn't long before Shere Khan spotted Mowgli in the distance, emerging from the shadows. The tiger gave a roar. He leapt at Mowgli, taking the man cub by surprise, but Shere Khan stopped mid-leap and crashed to the ground. Baloo had caught him by the tail. Shere Khan roared with rage as he dragged Baloo behind him, but the brave bear was determined to not let go. Eventually, the furious tiger managed to flip Baloo over his head. The bear hit the ground with a mighty crash. Suddenly, a lightning bolt struck a nearby tree, which burst into flames. Shere Khan was terrified. Fire was the only thing that frightened him. Mowgli picked up the burning branch. The man cub tied the burning branch to the tiger's tail. Shere Khan screamed as he clawed the branch away. Then he fled into the jungle, never to be seen again. Mowgli ran over to Baloo, who was lying very still on the ground. "Please get up, Baloo," he cried. Bagheera came over to comfort Mowgli. "Baloo was very brave," the panther said. "Was?" gulped Mowgli. "You mean Baloo's dead?" Before Bagheera had a chance to reply, Baloo sat up and rubbed his eyes. "He wasn't dead after all," Mowgli laughed and threw his arms around the big bear's neck. A short time later, the three friends saw the man village on the other side of the river. Suddenly, they heard someone singing. Mowgli peered through the trees, and he saw a young girl kneeling by the river. "Isn't she pretty?" cried Mowgli, rushing off to have a closer look. The girl turned and smiled. Mowgli shyly smiled back. When she began to walk towards the man village, Mowgli ran to join her. Baloo and Bagheera felt sad that their young friend was leaving, but they knew that he would now be happy and safe. "It's where he belongs," sighed Bagheera. "Come on, Baloo. Let's get back to where we belong." And as the sun set, the two friends headed back towards the jungle, singing and dancing happily.